Hi, we're looking at Hebrew today. Specifically, we're looking at the Hebrew word for Sabbath as translated in Leviticus 23. Because Leviticus 23 mentions the weekly Sabbath as well as the yearly Sabbaths. So we're going to look at the original Hebrew and see what we can find out. First of all, here's verse 23:3. 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of rest. Okay, so it's talking about the weekly Sabbath, the eternal Sabbath of the Ten Commandments. And where did I go? I passed it. There it is. Alright, there's the Hebrew. SHBTH. And translated here as Sabbath of. Okay? That was Leviticus 23, verse 3. Now we're going to go to the wave sheaf offering, which is, or was, a ceremonial Sabbath, but it was determined on the day after the weekly Sabbath when they came into the land that was promised them. So that weekly Sabbath is also the Sabbath of the Ten Commandments, eternal seventh-day Sabbath, and there it is. Now this one is a little different. This one is the Sabbath, and you can see there's a character that's different. Now Hebrew reads from right, sorry about the camera jiggle there. Hebrew reads from right to left. So you can see these three characters here are the exact same as the three that we saw earlier, except this little character was added, which means it must mean the, or E, and then SHBTH. So that's also the weekly Sabbath, which determines the wave sheaf offering. The day after the weekly Sabbath is the wave sheaf offering. Alright, now we're going to go to Pentecost, which is a ceremonial Sabbath, but it is determined by counting 7 weekly Sabbaths plus, and then the day after, so that means 50, that's why Pentecost, but you determine Pentecost by counting 7 weekly Sabbaths. So let's go to verse 15, and looks like the exact same word as we saw in the wave sheaf offering, the Sabbath. This is also the weekly 7th day, 4th commandment, eternal Sabbath. Alright, now we're going to go to the Day of Atonement. Day of Atonement is a ceremonial Sabbath, and it's not determined by counting any weekly Sabbaths. It's just on the 9th day of the month. It doesn't say what month, I think it's above it, but 9th day of whatever month it was on. It shall be unto you a Sabbath of rest. Okay, so let's take a look at the word. There it is. SHBTH, exact same. Leviticus 23, verse 32. So we can see that in the original Hebrew, God makes no distinction between the word for the weekly Sabbath and the word for the ceremonial yearly Sabbath. It's the exact same word. So we should not be surprised then if God uses the same word in Greek for the weekly Sabbath and the same word in Greek to represent the ceremonial Sabbath. Just like the Hebrew, if it's the same, that's consistent with the original language. There's no distinction. God makes no distinction between those words.